what the clock module should look like when it's functioning. It should run like this, okay? So, and I know it's a little blurry because, like I said, I'm going to need to adjust the zoom and whatnot on this camera, but now let me see if I lift it up, if that's easier to see. Yeah, okay, so I just need to get this thing lower down. Okay, so what do we have here, right? We've got this light is controlled by the potentiometer, and as I was explaining to Cole earlier, so right here we have a, let me raise it up. Right here we have a capacitor, and the capacitor is going to basically charge and discharge, and the rate at which it's able to fill or discharge is controlled by a resistor, and that's what the potentiometer does, is it basically adjusts the resistance, and by increasing the resistance we slow it down, and by decreasing the resistance we speed it up, the frequency at which it cycles on and off, okay? And then we've got the switch here, which if I switch to the other mode is has me in single step mode. So we could disconnect this LED because we don't really need it, but it's nice to know that the circuit's actually on, right? And that we can pulse our clock signal for the computer, okay? Okay, so if we go to Ben's, the start of it, okay, so what do we have in our tube of integrated circuits? You've got, so I open mine. If I can get it open. Should be a little piece of tape, and then there's this like foam stopper. Okay, so inside here we've got 4 integrated circuits. Okay, you've got 2 of them that have WDC labels on them. Let me put this on that side so I can see both this and the thing. Okay, so you've got here, this one is the 6522. Okay, so this is the interface controller. Then we have this other big one, which is the 65C02. That's our processor. Okay, and then we've got this thing that says Japan on it. That's our RAM module. And the other one here that says Atmel on it, that's our ROM module. This is an EEPROM, so electrically erasable. Okay, so the one modification we're going to make from Ben's circuit, okay, so there it is up on the screen here for, and actually let me change. There, okay. So we've got it up on the screen, and basically he's just got the processor here kind of wherever. This doesn't, make a huge difference exactly where you put it, but we'll maybe line it up like, no, this is the one that says, so there's 4 of them. Well, yeah, okay, no, so it does not say where it was made, but it says 65C02, okay? All right, so that's your processor, and the pins, you'll notice, they're slightly too wide to actually, oops, sorry, I need to switch back to webcam. The pins are slightly too wide to fit into the holes, so you do kind of have to just bend them ever so gently so that they actually will go in, okay? And then it should just kind of snap in like that. Yeah, so here I've got it basically 5 or so rows from the far left. Um, and I'm sorry, there's no way I can make this go down any further. Um, that's a very good idea, actually. Um, well, actually, the other thing I could do is actually, let me go back to um, here. Let me do this real quick. Let me actually try using the one. No, that's not going to work. Okay, so let's try Evan's suggestion. The problem may be, though, Evan, that I won't be able to actually get to it. Like, I may not fit. Oh, okay. Sorry, the cord's tangled. Yeah, the 6502 is the one that needs to go. That's the processor. Yes. The C stands for CMOS, um, which is the lithography process. Um, okay. So now the only thing I need to do is reverse this. Transform. Okay, so it's from my point of view. Okay. Okay. So, and of course I've got this thing upside down. Um, well, okay, I'm just going to leave it. So, in terms of the numbers and stuff, but that doesn't really make a huge difference. So, um, okay, so I've got my processor here, and now what's important to note with the processor is how do you know where pin 1 is? Yeah, the little notch. So the little notch that's right here is on the left, okay, from my point of view, and that tells me that pin 1 is this low one, this one here in the corner, and then it goes around to pin 40 around the thing. Okay, so if we go back to Ben's um, thing here, right? So, oops. Um, and in fact, let me blow this up so it's full size. Okay. Then what else do we need to connect here? Okay. So a couple of things. We need to have power and ground. Okay. Connected to all of the different breadboards. Um, and so for that, just use the red and the black wires, or if you have extra uh, the um, from the original kit. Now, we're probably going to run out of wire on this stuff. And so, oh, and then there's also that, which I've forgotten. Um, we're probably going to run out of wire at some point, so I have these boxes of wire, but they're the wrong kind. Because I was a dummy and ordered the wrong kind. These are not solid core, they're braided core, which means they don't stick into the breadboard holes. Huh? Uh, no. That's much smaller gauge. This would work, yeah. So this would be the kind of stuff you would use in an electrical at home with like wire nuts and stuff. You could, but that would require a lot of soldering, and I hate soldering. Okay, so or I could just order the correct kind. Yeah, just don't run out of wire. Okay, we won't run out of wire at first. Okay, so the other thing that was upstairs, and there's like 4 or 5 of these, are a set of wire cutters slash strippers. Okay, and this stuff is, yes, Rippy, we are live on the internet. Let's not get a content strike on my channel, please. Thank you. Um, okay. Yeah, wire strippers. And this stuff, if you notice down the side, it has the gauges. This is 20 gauge wire, so it's the first hole. And so let's just go ahead and get the the first set of stuff hooked up here. And so we need to switch back to the webcam and minimize this for now. Okay. Oh, and actually, I'm going to put that on my other screen so I can see it. Okay, so what else do I need to put here? I need to get power and ground rails um, those are the longer ones. Yeah, go ahead and go get them. Okay, so we go ahead and get the power and the ground connected. Oops. So the black ones are ground, or the black ones. So here in the, oh, you can't see it, right? Let me, you know what, let me just do this. Okay, there we go. Okay, so the black ones are ground and the red ones are going to be our plus 5 volts. Um, and so, and when you strip these, you don't need to strip off all that much. Okay, and so we'll just run there, and then I'll cut off the appropriate length at the other end. Bounce, say, yay. Cool. Yeah, because the rest of them are in other buckets, so. Yeah, okay, so everybody's got a set of wire strippers. You may have to share, because I think I got like 4 or 5 of them. Rippy, does your bucket have one? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, and this doesn't have to look exactly like it does for him, right? Just based on the length that you've got. Um, and then for the ones that are joining here to, well, that's interesting. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. So this is going to be one obvious difference between ours and his. Namely, you'll notice that his has, you know what? Actually, I'm going to be smart about the streaming. Oh no, because then it'll be the infinity mirror. Um, that you'll notice that he only has, so he's basically got a double wide breadboard that only has a single rail down the middle. Whereas what have we done? We've stuck 2 breadboards together, and so we have 2 sets of rails here. Okay, so what that actually means is the little crystal thing. Where's the? Yeah, so that'll cut it, and then the strip it with the back hole, and then you just kind of, yeah. Okay, so in the clock module, you had some of these really short jumpers that were like, well, the metal ones, yeah, or the little orange ones, okay, which we can use. Like we got sort of 2 options. We can just sort of ignore the existence of this rail, or we can go ahead and jump it in, and that way we've got, it might make things cleaner later. Okay. So see how we have two of these and he only has one? Because he has a double wide breadboard.
Oh, just ignore one.
Yeah, so either just ignore one, or we'll tie the plus and the plus on both of these and the minus, and then we'll have double ground and double plus 5 volts. When we start tying things into it like this, we could have like the things going up could come from here and the things going down could go down. So that's probably a little cleaner. So I think I'm going to do it that way. So let me actually steal a couple of those little, the yellow one, or the orange ones. Yeah, let me just take a couple of those. So that I can tie, and I'm not sure which size I'll need, so can tie plus to plus and the yellow ones fit, and minus to minus. Huh? Yeah. Yeah, because the yellow ones from the clock module set will fit perfectly. So I've got plus to plus and minus to minus. Okay, well, if you're going to cut your own wire for it, use the red and the black still. Yeah, because the color convention, I'm just being lazy here for those tie-ins. Huh? From the 6502, the little bag? Yeah. Um, okay, so the convention, of course, is, and we'll try and stick with the convention here of only using black and red for power and ground, respectively, as much as possible, just for sanity. And then the blue and green and yellow, and did he include white in here? So we've got blue, green, white, and yellow. We'll use those for different control lines, and so that we can also keep track of what's the difference between the data bus and the address bus, and then the different control line pins. Okay, so we just need to wire up the rest of these things, and let's look at the, so what are all these pins that we're tying high and low in this case? So for that, where do we go? Yeah, we got to look at the data sheet. Okay, so let's go back to, let's see. Let's look at the 6502 data sheet. Okay, and let me do Safari here. Okay, so we need basically this diagram here. Okay, so that tells us what each of the pins are. Okay, and in particular, the first ones that we need to make sure that we've got, we need to have voltage and we need to have ground. Okay, and so what is voltage and ground? VDD is plus 5 volts, so that's pin 8. VSS over here, pin 21, is the ground, okay? And if we go back to our webcam, then obviously because I've got this thing angled, you can't see from the top of it. Okay, let's see if I can get these legs up a little bit. Okay, how's that? Okay. Okay, this might actually work. It's a little ghetto, but okay, I'm going to pull this bottom breadboard off because I don't really need it right now, just for the sake of until I can get like a cancel lever that can give me a little bit more space here. It should be on the left. Okay. Yeah. All right. So what all do I need? I need pin number. I need a poking instrument. Yeah. Okay. So I need four. Right, black wire to this far corner pin. That's the ground pin. Pin 8, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, is this one, needs to be on plus 5 volts. Okay, so let's get where my mouse cursor is. There's a plus 5 volts. So get that one, and then also get the ground, which is the only black wire that's on here.
Okay, so what pin is ground?
Pin 21, which is the far right hand.
So overlap is the VCC.
Okay, no, because the VCC is not the ground is the top right. Okay, but the voltage is pin 8, not pin 1. Okay, so all right, so pin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This needs to be tied to high. Okay, and then
is your well, the top of that thing on the left or the right?
the left.
Okay.
Yeah, so my pin 1 is here's my notch where the end of the pin is, and so my pin 1 is right there.
So the eighth pin
Yeah, so 8th going counterclockwise is, yeah. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I need this to be tied. Okay, tied high. All right, and then similarly, I need pin number 21 tied low. Shit. Okay. So as you go through these and start wiring up more of them, you'll probably get a good sense for about the correct lengths to cut. Um, and obviously these don't have to be perfect. And if anybody needs a knife to cut open one of the bags, my knife's up here on the table. Okay. Um, okay. So power and ground, good. So we good? All right. So what are all these other pins that he has tied high at the beginning here? Okay. Let's go back to the data sheet. Okay. All right. So what are all these other pins? We've got voltage tied high. Okay. And then there are, he also has here NMIB and IRQB, and I think the ready pin all tied high. So let's look here. Yeah, and we can see pins 2, 4, 6, and 8. He has all of those tied high. Yeah, that's just connected straight to the high voltage, to positive 5 volts. Okay. Okay, and then ground, anything tied low is tied to ground. Okay, now some of these things are temporarily going to be tied high, but eventually will not be. Okay, so for example, the NMIB and IRQB, what do those stand for? Any idea?
IRQB.
Yeah, IRQB or NMIB. Okay, those both are interrupt pins. Okay, so what an interrupt does is it basically, the processor stops what it's doing, it pushes the current value of the program counter and of the status register onto the stack. Okay, it then jumps to wherever the interrupt handler is in code, and we'll talk about those locations later. Okay, um, and then when it's complete, it jumps back, re-pops the program counter and the status registers values back from the stack, and then resumes normal operation. Okay, so IRQ, interrupt request, and NMI, non-maskable interrupt. So there are actually two different kinds of interrupts on this processor. And the difference between them is IRQ is a request. The processor does not have to acknowledge that request. Okay. Whereas non-maskable interrupt, the interrupt will be dealt with immediately, period. There is no way to disable that. Okay. So what that means is that you want to use the non-maskable interrupt for basically show-stopping things that absolutely must be dealt with immediately under all circumstances, period, end of statement. Okay. Whereas the interrupt request will be something that sometimes you can turn the ability for the processor to be interrupted on and off, because let's say that you're doing 10 steps and you either have to do all 10 of them at once or none of them, then you would disable interrupts for that sequence of things, and then come back from an interrupt if you needed to after they were complete. Okay. All right. So the B here is important because that tells you what logic level will trigger them. The B means that they are triggered if they are pulled low, not pulled high. Okay. So this is why they're tied high initially in the videos, because we're not going to have any interrupts. Okay. Now, eventually, we will pull those wires and they will be tied to other things in the circuit. Okay. Like switches and stuff that can either be high or low. But for now, we'll just tie them high. Okay. All right. So tie those high. That's pins number 4 and 6, respectively. Okay. And then pin 2 is the ready pin, and that will be tied high to indicate a logic level of 1 means that we're ready for execution. Okay, so yeah, so pins 2, 4, and 6, tie all of those high, the same that we did with pin number 8, the voltage source.
4 and 6 to 5 volts, and the other ones.
Yeah, 2, 4, 6, and 8 are all on 5 volts. I mean, I can count. Let's just make sure. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that's pin 8. Your chip may just be one row down, which is fine. It doesn't matter. 2, 4, 6, and 8 all need to be tied high. Okay. Now, eventually 4 and 6, we will remove those wires and tie them to other things. But for now, just go ahead and tie them high. Oops, I already made a mistake. I tied that to ground, not high. Okay, now I am also missing the black ground rail so that's this. I don't have that in yet, but obviously just continue. I mean, you guys hopefully get the idea here. It's a little bit of tedium, but that's the way it works. Oops, shit. That's not what I meant to do. Huh? No, it won't. It's not even monetized. Because I don't want to do all the paperwork. Well, this is my personal channel. There is no school Twitch channel. I've told marketing that we need to do that, but you know, to have a official Wabash College Twitch channel. But that would require them to respond to emails. So, I think I cut this one too short. Yeah, too short. Anyway, so don't worry about running out of wire because I ordered 2 boxes full of it, spools. And between what you've got in the kit and what's going to be in the boxes, and they'll get here tomorrow. Plus whatever Rippy scrounges up from the electronics lab. I'm sure we won't have any shortage of wire. Okay. So we got those. What else do we need? My ground rail. And then there's that one final red one up at the top, which we'll look at the data sheet here in a second to see what that's tied to. 21 to ground, and that's the only one that's grounded at this moment. Top right. Yeah, here. Yeah, the notch is to the left.
Yeah, it goes
1 to 20, so this is 21.
Yeah, that's the bottom right.
That's the top right.
We're going like this. The notch is up.
Oh, okay. No, the notch is right here.
Right now we're tomatoes. He's thinking about the data sheet. I'll get the pin out. It's the bottom right.
Oh.
That is like the convention when you're talking about electronics to always
Put the pin. Okay. Sorry. I thought you guys meant relative to where it is here in the image, not in the data sheet. Okay. No. I'm 100% with you now, but no, you were freaking me out.
Which pin is that one on the top? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And of course, that's way too short.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, I feel that. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, but them's the breaks, right? And back in the 80s, Like if you seriously were doing anything with computers, you would have to know all of this stuff. And in the 70s, right, when the Apple One, for example, right, if you bought an Apple One, how did it come? Unassembled, right? You basically got, so Ben here has produced the Apple One of the 2020s. Okay, cool story, bro. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to add one thing that he doesn't have in his circuit, which is a pretty simple change. I'm going to get out one of the LEDs. Okay, and the color obviously doesn't matter here, so just grab one. And is anybody colorblind, by the way? Because if that's the case, then, I mean, obviously we can accommodate that, but, well, I mean,
it doesn't. It matters, but it doesn't necessarily matter.
right.
Because you still have numbers and you can pay attention to where stuff's going.
Yeah. Okay, so that would be really a challenge as a teacher that I'm not sure how I would. I mean, obviously I'd figure it out, but okay. So
Just get stripe wires.
no, if you were literally blind.
Vertical, horizontal, vortex stripes. So they do this.
Okay, so the two things I'm going to add here to the circuit is I'm going to take and I'm going to add a 220 ohm resistor and one of the LEDs. Okay, and the reason I want to do that is just to make sure that my circuit is powered up, which right now obviously it isn't, but so I'm going to trim this. What? Huh? Oh, it's not on the board. I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm just going to add here a just a quick little LED. Yeah, so I've got it on the positive, and then I also need a resistor. Yeah, well, 4 because you can't see one because of the wire. And then I'm going to ground it. Okay, 220 ohm. So it's the so you can tell based on the colored bands, and there's a chart. Now the ones that came in the 6502 kit are they're all 220s. Yeah, those are 220s. So the way that you read this is, I'm pretty sure. We'll find out. If it's too high of a resistance, then we won't see anything. And if it's too low of a resistance, then we'll burn the light out. Okay. Not for a resistor, no. For the LED, it does. How do you tell which end is which? Yeah. So on the LED, it matters. Okay. So notice on the LED that you've got one tail that's a little longer than the other. The long tail goes on the positive side, and the short tail goes on the negative side. Mm-hmm.
So do we plug the LEDs? Wait, yours isn't on.
Yeah. Well, it's not on because I haven't powered it. So I've got the LED. I've got the positive leg in the positive rail. The negative or the short leg is here. You just can't see it, and then the resistor goes back up.
Okay, so like, where did you shove the resistor into? Like, what row did you shove?
I put it on row number 4. Yeah. So I've got, yeah, so here, let me just bring my board around and show you all, right? So I've got the LED,
4J to positive.
yeah, 4J to positive, and then 4I to ground with the resistor. Okay. Yeah. Okay, and this needs to be, that one needs to be here. Right. Yeah. Okay. And then what you can do, grab your clock circuit, okay, and the power supply from it, right? So you've got on your clock circuit, where's your power supply? Okay. On the power supply, you've got your barrel connector, right? And then your other ones here. And oh, that's interesting. Oh, yeah, so that yours are the same color. I would actually swap these out and make one of these, but that's in black and red, because that way you can tell which one's positive and which one's ground. Right. Because obviously if you hook it up the wrong way, that's bad.
Which one was it again?
They're all the same. Yeah.
The colors are different, I think. That's some crazy.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. Yeah, okay, so the 220s are red, red, brown, gold. So red is 2, um, red is 2, and then actually I think that's, no, brown is multiplier 10. Yeah, so I've got some charts. Let me go grab those out of my office real quick. Well, it's 220. Okay, so put one of these in your buckets. I may have grabbed the wrong resistor when I did this. Okay. All right. So the color chart, it depends on how many bands there are on the thing, how you read it. But um, basically, it's just, and let me double check. Where's my board? Over here. I think I probably got the wrong one. Yeah, I did get the wrong one. Okay, so let me correct that. Where did I put them? So the way you read it, right, is you see red, red, brown, gold on the 220s. So red is 2. The second red is 2. This is the 4-band pattern. So the third band is a multiplier. So 2, 2 times brown, which is 10, is 220, right? Okay, 220 ohms. Okay, and so that is the resistance I need to go through an LED. Because, well, basically, why do I need this resistor with the LED? Yeah, so it doesn't get so bright and burn out. Okay. And now, if I take and just double check this, right? If I take my barrel plug adapter, this guy, right, and I plug in ground to ground and +5 to +5, and then I plug it in, then I know that my circuit is powered. Okay, so I've just added that basically just to know when the thing is on. Yeah, it did. Should turn on as long as you have. Okay, yeah. So now this is a little different about y'all's barrel plugs. So you see how both of these wires are green? Did you look at it to say which one's plus and which one's minus and get the correct ones there? Okay, don't screw it up.
Oh, I was looking.
Okay. So in fact, I would pull those green wires and make a red and a black one. Okay.
Actually, that's not really.
And you can make those relatively short, okay, just so that you don't get ground and plus 5 volts mixed up off your barrel thing. No, no, but I have one in my office because you need a really tiny one for this. Okay, so is it Phillips? Let me see it. Yeah, okay, so then you can just loosen it. All right, so the screwdriver's right here. If you need to loosen and tighten your barrel plug wire. Okay. All right, so the other pin that he's got tied high here is pin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's BE. Okay, so what is pin BE? Let's go find out. Yeah, bus enable. Okay, and so for that we just have to look bus enable. Okay, the bus enable input signals external control of the address, data, and the read-write buffers. When the bus enable is high, the address, data, and buffers are active. When low, they're set to high impedance status. Okay, so we'll go ahead and tie those high for now, or that high for now. That's pin number 36. Okay, so 5 from the corner. Okay, and so what we were tying pin 36 high. Is this kind of making sense though, this whole high-low business? Yeah, okay.
Is it 36, right?
Yes, pin 36 needs to be tied high. And of course I cut it too long. Make sure I can probably just use this one. Okay. All right, so we got all that stuff tied. Okay, so let me advance through the video a little bit and right here. So pin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just double check. Yeah, 36, which is 5 from the corner. Okay, so looks like we're good there. All right, so let me change back to Safari. Okay, so now we should match. Let me actually transform this. And let's see. Well, I don't want to stretch it, but well, here, let me just full screen this for now. Okay, so we now have it, other than this other rail, which we're not using yet, everything matches his, the exception, of course, that we put in the LED just for to double check ourselves. Okay, so okay, so let's continue. Okay, so where are we going to put our clock? Okay, the clock connects to this pin, which is pin 37. Okay, so on your clock module, right, just before the LED, okay, meaning on the long side of the LED, is where you're going to run a wire from the clock module over to the clock pin on the CPU. Okay, so in the picture here, that's this long white jumper that's going from, okay, so he put his output LED here. I think I put mine up there above the switch. It doesn't really matter, but wherever your output LED is, okay, that's fine. Yeah, the green one's fine. Okay, is what you're going to plug in. Okay, now you want this to be on the positive side of the LED, not on the negative side of it. Okay, so you may need to look at the thing, and let me just sketch on the board what I mean here. So you've got your right. Okay, so you've got your LED, and the resistor is plugged into one of the pins and goes to ground. Okay, and then therefore the other pin is the long one. You probably can't tell what's long or short when it's actually plugged into the breadboard. Okay, but you want the wire that goes from, so what's the white wire in his picture, to be coming from the long side of the LED, not the short side. Okay, does that make sense?
So you're, the way you did it, you're following on the right side.
Well, this is his, not, yeah.
It would be on top of this.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, okay. So then if you connect that over to pin 4, okay, or sorry, not pin 4, pin 36, okay. He also, it looks like he has the pin 37 tied. Sorry, I said that wrong. Pin 37 and 38, okay. So what is pin 37? Pin 37 is Phi 2, okay, and that is our clock pin. Okay, so that's where the output from the clock gets plugged in. Okay, all right, what else? What's SOB? Yeah, I knew that was coming. Okay, but what does the B indicate? No, the B indicates that it's active low. Okay, so because I've skipped ahead here, what else do we have? He's tied that high. Basically, he's tied this pin high, that's pin 38, SOB. Pin 36, we already had tied high, that was the bus enable. Okay, and then pin 37 is the clock that's going to come from your clock module. Okay, so let me add the clock module on here. Just the one.
Okay, so like in terms of just keeping this circuit cell contained and going in the clock, we only realize that one output goes from that 37.
Yes, and that's yes, a single thing to pin 37 from your clock module circuit, other than power and ground.
Cool.
Right. So because here, right, I need to tie the clock module's power and ground to the rest of the circuit's power and ground, like with these wires here. Okay. So at this moment, what you see on the screen, it wouldn't work because the power and the ground for here is not tied to the rest of the circuit. Okay, so what are we going to need to add, either right here or over there on that side? It doesn't matter. Yeah, just got to tie it, right? So we need to go positive to positive and negative to negative so that the clock circuit's power and ground are common with the computer side's power and ground. In what's on the screen at this moment, they're not tied together. So the clock is going to function because it's the one plugged in, but the computer wouldn't because it doesn't have power. Okay, make sense? Well, a black and a red, but yeah. because you want to use black for ground and red for positive.
So I have two here. This is wrong.
Uh, it
I should have done a red.
it's okay in terms of its function, but you should have done one red, one black, just to be
make two small red ones.
yeah, just to be kind of consistent here. Okay. All right. So does that make sense?
Put that like right here. Next to the...
Okay. Now, for the sake of time, let me fast forward a little bit here, and obviously, you guys are going to need to go through this and follow it. Okay. So I'm going to fast forward to actually, it may be the next video. It is, yeah. Let me get through this stupid ad. You know, I'm starting to get enough annoyed with YouTube that I might pay them to not show me ads ever again.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
They're winning. No. I want them to win. Just build a pie hole.
Yeah. I think somehow the IT would get a little irritated with me if they discover a pie hole on the network.
Because, how you're on stream. I love IT.
Yeah.
I love our IT overlord. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to skip forward a little bit here to this point in the video. Okay. Now, there's obviously a lot going on there. So let's kind of step back and see what we've got. Okay. So first off, you see these big rainbow ribbons. Okay. Yeah. The purpose of the rainbow ribbon, okay, is, and this is where your Arduino comes in. Okay. So we've got the set of rainbow ribbon, and basically you want to break it into a couple of chunks. You need a chunk of 8 and another chunk of 16. Okay. And the reason we're splitting them that way is because the data bus it's an 8-bit data bus. So there's the 8. And the address bus is a 16-bit address bus. So there's the 16. Okay. And they come in, however wide they are. All right. So the purpose of these is so that we can hook them up to the Arduino. Okay. And he's got the code basically that you can, run on your Arduino that does this, right? So the source code, we don't have to write that from scratch. And what it's going to do is show us what's on the address bus, what's on the data bus, okay? And then it's also going to show us those things in hex, okay? And also show us whether or not the processor is trying to read from the bus or write to the bus, okay? And the so the point of the Arduino is to be able to spy on the processor, basically. Okay, now let's talk about what happens when the processor first starts up. And for that, let me go back to the data sheet. Okay. Okay, so I think it's somewhere else. Okay, so here at the top is our table of vectors, okay? So when the processor first fires up, okay, it's going to go through a bit of an initialization routine, but then it's going to look in addresses FFFC and FFFD, okay, and whatever it finds there is going to be the address where the first instruction of code should be loaded in from, okay? And in our case, that will be always address 8000 on these breadboard machines. On the Commodore, we can put it in other places, but for us, we'll always start our programs at hex 8000. Okay, so then when the like I said, when the processor is initialized, it will look at those memory addresses, find whatever, or sorry, look at FFFC and FFFD, and what it's going to find there is 8000. Then it will go to 8000, load in code, and start executing things. Okay. Now, if I were to fire this thing up and have it connected to the Arduino as it stands right now, what we would see is basically garbage. Okay. And the reason is, what is that address FFFC? If the processor tries to read from FFFC and FFFD, what is it going to find? Well, that's what it's trying to look for. But what right now, let me just go back to my thing here. What is at FFFC and FFFD in my circuit? Nothing. There's no memory in this thing yet. Okay, so if I were to hook it up to the Arduino right now and fire it up, we would get absolute garbage. There's nothing there at FFFC for it to read because there's no memory in this circuit yet. Okay, and so the memory, this is where the EEPROM comes in. Okay, so in his videos, you'll notice that he pulls a chip in and out periodically and plugs it into an EEPROM programmer. Okay, so what are you going to do instead of pulling the chip in and out? That's what this is for. Okay, so this is the modification that we're going to make, is that where the EEPROM sits in the circuit, we're going to replace it with that so that we don't have to pull the pins in and out of the breadboard. We can just plop it into the thing and then lock the arm down and then remove it to put it in the EEPROM programmer. Okay, which will simplify our lives substantially. Okay, now, that said, what happens if you get one of the chips plugged into the breadboard backwards or you need to move it? Okay, you don't want to have to do this very often, okay, but if you do need to move a chip on the breadboard or remove it from the breadboard, there's a special tool for that, okay, which is, there's two of them upstairs on the shelf. They look like little metal grabby things. And you grab both sides of the chip and basically just pull it from the socket, okay? So, yeah. Okay, it's almost 11, so we should probably quit because I've got a jet right after this. I will give you guys instructions on Canvas for where I want you to be for Thursday, okay? Do we all have our clock modules working? That part works. So. All right.